Alright, so we've talked about how whenever you plug something into function notation, it's going to give you out a y. And so that means we have an x and a y, which make an ordered pair. So if you see an ordered pair on the graph, if you see a graph, go ahead and draw this in your journal. X, Y. Make sure you're going by the same scale or else your answers will be wrong. The important points of this graph are going to be 2, 1. That's the maximum. 3, 0 is one place where it touches the x-axis, so that's an x-intercept, which we talked about last class. 1, 0 is also an x-intercept. And then 0, -3 is a y-intercept. Now let's look at these parentheses. Write down the steps. What goes in the parentheses? This is f of what? Well, they wrote f of 2, but 2 is replacing x. Every single time you see function notation, whenever they draw that parentheses, every time they put something in there. Every time they put a number inside of that parentheses for a function, it's replacing x. So that means that when they gave you f of 2, they gave you x. F of 0, they gave you x. The 0 was x. F of 3, they want 3 to be x. Then we take a look at the graph. On the graph, where 2 is x, here's the x. 2 is matched with the number 0 on the graph for x. 0 is here at the origin. When we find 0, the blue line is touching at -3. That was the y. When we look for 3 for x, we look at the blue line, we follow it to x being 3, and our answer is 0. This means that anytime you have a graph, you could write the ordered pairs of that graph as function notation. Let's do these together. Did they give us x this time? Write down these examples. F of x equals -1. Did they tell you what x is? Did they put something inside of that parentheses? No, they didn't. They gave you the answer. They said that y is equal to -1. They said y is equal to 2. Y is equal to -2. So let's fill that in on the ordered pair. If they didn't give you x, then they gave you y. If they gave you the part that was outside the parentheses. It's your job to find the x by looking at the graph or by looking at the equation. Here we don't have the equation, so we're only going to look for -1 for y. So we're going to follow our y, we're going to look for -1, and then we're going to trace it to the graph. And we see that -1 is paired with the number 1 for x. Now let's look for 2. 2 for y. That means we're going to go up to 2, and we're going to trace it until we touch the line. There's our dot. Now we follow it back down to the x-axis, and we see that the x was -2. Now let's go to -2 for the y. -2 to the y, trace it to the graph, follow it up, and now we have our x. You only draw the dots on the line, and then here we just have positive 2 for x. Try these ones on your own. Draw the graph exactly how I have it. Pause the video, and I'll show you the answers in a moment. The left ones gave you the x's, and so you found the y's on the graph. The right graph gave you the y's, and you had to find the x's. Finally, we're ready for the domain and range, which is the easy part because it's just labeling. It's just organizing things.